The night I realized how quickly life can humiliate you, I was standing alone outside a dimly lit restaurant in downtown Chicago, watching my reflection tremble in the glass window as a couple inside laughed over candlelight. My phone buzzed with a message that felt colder than the winter air slicing through my jacket. "Sorry, I don't think this is going to work. You're nice, but not what I'm looking for." Just like that, the date I had spent days preparing for ended before it even truly began, leaving me stranded with nothing but the echo of rejection ringing in my chest. It wasn't just the message, it was the way it confirmed every quiet fear I had buried deep inside me, that maybe I was simply not enough. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that life can surprise you when you least expect it, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because this story might remind you of something you didn't know your heart needed. My name is Nathaniel Carter, and until that night, I thought I had life mostly figured out. I worked as a mid-level analyst at a logistics firm in Chicago, lived in a small but cozy apartment, and tried my best to stay optimistic about love despite a string of disappointing relationships. I wasn't the kind of guy who swept people off their feet, but I believed in steady affection, in showing up, in trying. That night, I had thought maybe things would be different. Her name was Vanessa, someone I had met through a mutual friend, and she seemed warm, funny, and easy to talk to. But as the evening unfolded, something shifted. Her smile became forced, her responses shorter, her eyes drifting toward her phone more often than toward me. When she excused herself to the restroom and never returned, I knew. The message just confirmed it. I stood there longer than I should have, pretending to check my phone so I wouldn't look like someone who had just been abandoned mid-date. People passed by, their laughter and conversations blurring into a distant hum. I felt small, invisible, like the entire city had quietly agreed that I didn't quite belong in moments like this. Eventually, I walked home, each step heavier than the last, replaying every moment of the evening in my mind, wondering what I had said wrong, what I could have done differently. The next morning at work, I tried to act normal, but exhaustion clung to me like a shadow. My coworker Olivia Bennett noticed immediately. She worked 2 desks away from me, someone I had known for almost a year but never really opened up to. She had this quiet confidence about her, the kind that didn't demand attention but naturally drew people in. Her presence was calm, steady, like a lighthouse you didn't realize you needed until you were already lost. She didn't ask right away. She just handed me a cup of coffee, the way she sometimes did when she noticed I looked overwhelmed. That small gesture alone nearly broke me. I managed a weak smile, but she saw through it. Later that afternoon, as most of the office buzzed with routine chatter, she sat across from me and gently asked what happened. Something about the way she asked, without judgment, without curiosity for gossip, made it impossible to hide. I told her everything. Not just about the date, but about the pattern, the quiet rejections, the growing belief that maybe I just wasn't someone people chose. As I spoke, I expected to feel embarrassed, but instead, I felt something loosen inside me, like I was finally putting down a weight I had carried for too long. She listened without interrupting, her eyes steady, her expression soft but thoughtful. When I finished, there was a moment of silence that felt heavier than any words. Then she said something that completely caught me off guard. She asked me if I could be her boyfriend. At first, I thought I had misheard her. It didn't make sense. There was no build-up, no hint that she saw me that way. My mind scrambled to find logic in her words, but none came. She quickly clarified, explaining that her family had been pressuring her to bring someone to an upcoming gathering, and she didn't want to go alone. It was supposed to be simple, temporary, just an arrangement. But even as she explained, there was something in her tone that didn't feel entirely casual. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no, to retreat back into the safety of my routine, but another part of me, the part still aching from the night before, felt drawn to the possibility of something different. I agreed, though I wasn't entirely sure why. The following days felt surreal. We spent time together outside of work, getting to know each other in ways we never had before. What started as preparation for a family event slowly became something deeper. We talked about everything, our childhoods, our fears, our dreams we had quietly given up on. Olivia wasn't just easy to talk to, she made me feel seen in a way I hadn't experienced before. At the family gathering, something unexpected happened. The act we had planned began to feel less like pretending and more like a glimpse into a life that could be real. Her family welcomed me warmly, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Olivia stayed close to me throughout the evening, her presence steady and reassuring. But the real shift didn't happen there. It happened later that night, when we were sitting in her car, the city lights reflecting softly around us. There was no audience, no expectations, just the quiet truth between us. She admitted that her request hadn't been entirely about her family. She had seen me long before that terrible date, noticed the way I treated people, the way I carried my disappointments without bitterness. She said she didn't want to watch me believe I was unworthy of love when she already knew I wasn't. Her words hit something deep inside me. All the doubts I had built over time suddenly felt fragile, like they could collapse at any moment. I realized that sometimes, we are too close to our own pain to see our worth, and it takes someone else to reflect it back to us. From that point on, everything changed. What began as a simple arrangement slowly turned into something real, something neither of us had planned but both of us needed. We took things slowly, carefully, aware of how easily things could be misinterpreted. But the more time we spent together, the clearer it became that this wasn't temporary. Months later, I found myself back at that same restaurant where my terrible date had ended. But this time, I wasn't alone. Olivia sat across from me, her smile genuine, her eyes focused entirely on me. The memory of that painful night felt distant, almost unreal, like it belonged to someone else. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Your support means more than you know. There was a moment during that dinner when I realized something profound. Life doesn't always give you what you expect, and sometimes it breaks you just enough to make room for something better. If that date had gone well, if everything had unfolded the way I had hoped, I might have never seen what was right in front of me all along. Before I tell you how this story ends, I have a special request. Comment the word second chance if you believe life can turn around when you least expect it. As the night came to a close, I looked at Olivia and felt a sense of certainty I had never known before. Not the kind that comes from perfection, but the kind that comes from understanding, from shared vulnerability, from choosing each other despite everything. I reached across the table and took her hand, not as part of an act, not because we had to pretend anymore, but because it felt right. And in that moment, I understood that sometimes, the worst days of your life are not endings. They are redirections, guiding you toward something you never would have found otherwise. So if you're standing outside your own version of that restaurant, feeling rejected, forgotten, or not enough, remember this. Your story is not over. The right moment, the right person, the right turn in the road might already be closer than you think. And sometimes, all it takes is one unexpected question to change everything.